Hi, I'm Teddy Burriss. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach, and this conversation is all about creating a professional LinkedIn profile. Thank you very much for joining me today. I have a lot of content to share with you. I'll take you deep into LinkedIn and show you. And at the end of this, my expectations are you will have a much better advantage at creating your professional LinkedIn profile. We'll talk about who should have a professional LinkedIn profile. Talk about navigating your LinkedIn profile. I'll actually show it to you when we go into LinkedIn. Talk about the importance of clarity on who is your target audience so that you're absolutely building your LinkedIn profile focused on the right people. We'll talk and I'll share some best practices for developing the list and using the list of important keywords and important phrases that resonate with your target audience. Talk with you about the best practices of actually writing and building out your LinkedIn profile in the right manner and the right tactics. Again, get the best results. I'll then show you a cool little trick that I use for analyzing the keyword richness of my LinkedIn profile, and you can use that to measure your keyword richness of your profile. And then I'll talk about how to manage your profile so that ongoing, it always represents who you are and what you do today. A little bit about me. I'm a LinkedIn Sales Navigator strategist. As I said, I started practicing social networking on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and blogging back in 2007. Got pretty serious about it. And then around 2009, I started developing this program to teaching LinkedIn as a business tool, which includes 4 pieces: how to build a profile, which is all about today's course, how to build a network, how to build a brand through engagement, and how to prospect. I experiment with LinkedIn on a regular basis. And the reason why I experiment with LinkedIn is so that I can find out what's going on, pay attention to changes, pay attention to the additions and new features and the loss of features, so that I can then share that with you so that you can stay aware of what the tool's all about as it changes so you can get the greatest results from it. I'm all over the internet, on YouTube, Quora, my websites, including LinkedIn. It's TL Burriss, RRISS. So first of all, let's make sure we're all clear on this. What is LinkedIn? Well, it is the #1 professional networking site on the earth, period. Hands down, there's nothing that compares to it from a professional networking perspective. There are well over 840 million people on LinkedIn. Still, over the last 7 or 8 years, there have been 2 new members every second on average. There are 60 million companies represented on LinkedIn in some way or another. And about 25% still today, this is August of 2022, still today about 25% of all LinkedIn members show up about every other week. LinkedIn is an important business platform for anybody who wants to be seen, who wants to connect, and who wants to engage and build a brand. So let's define this. What is a professional LinkedIn profile? It is a profile that speaks clearly to your target audience, a specific group of people, the right group of people, using words that mean something to them, using words that resonate with them in the context of what they are looking for and what you do. It takes focus to build a professional LinkedIn profile. You need to really think through this. It's not something you slap together overnight, and it is definitely not a copy of your resume. A professional LinkedIn profile is one that you paid attention to grammar, you paid attention to spelling, so that it speaks to your target audience in the right way. A professional LinkedIn profile is one that you manage on a regular basis so it stays tied and connected or aligned to what's going on in your business, what's going on in your career, and what's going on in your relevant in your target audience, so that you're constantly speaking to your target audience. And again, in context of what you do in your role and what your organization is involved in, and or what your career goals are. And as any of those 3 pieces, your business, your career, your target audience change, you have to adjust your LinkedIn profile so that it changes with it. It's sort of like having a brochure. If you have a professional brochure about your business and your business changes, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hop on changing that brochure. Do the same thing with your LinkedIn profile. A LinkedIn profile, a professional LinkedIn profile, is one that if you build it right, it will show up in a Google or a LinkedIn search based on, again, the words and the phrases that your target audience is using. I'm proud of the fact that in many places across the U.S. and somewhat beyond, my LinkedIn profile shows up right directly below the ads. And that's where you want to show up. It takes a lot of work, but when you build your profile right and you use it correctly, that can happen. A professional LinkedIn profile is one that uses all of the relevant and appropriate sections across the LinkedIn profile. So you can continue to tell stories, you continue to give information, you continue to show your target audience how you've grown, how you've developed to become the professional you are in the industry you're in today, in the role you're in today, doing the work you do. So who should have a professional LinkedIn profile? It's a big question. It's not necessarily for everyone. So let's talk a little bit about who it should be for. First of all, it's anyone who wants to be discovered by the over 840 million LinkedIn members out there. So if your target audience is in that group, that may be one reason why you have a profile. If you want to network with other business professionals, predominantly in a B2B space, but I would never exclude the B2C space. But if you want to network with other business professionals who are relevant to you in some way or another and they're on LinkedIn, you better have a profile. If you're a business owner or an executive and you want to build your profile, you want to build your presence as an influencer in your industry, then especially if your industry is represented by other business professionals in that 840 million, you need a LinkedIn profile. If you're a business developer and you're looking to find your target audience, to get introduced to them, to connect with them, to get into conversations with them, maybe pull them into business conversations, you need a LinkedIn profile. If you're in career transition and you want to be found by the people who need your skills, the business owners, the business leaders, the department heads who need your experiences, you need a LinkedIn profile. You need a professional LinkedIn profile. And recruiters who want to show future candidates and hiring managers that they can do the work they need to have done. You can show the company and you can show the client, the candidate, that you are involved in your industry, you're involved in the space that you do recruiting in, and you understand both sides of this equation. You need a professional LinkedIn profile. I think that there are very few business professionals or people who engage with other humans who should not have a LinkedIn profile. And the more relevant your target audience is to that 840 million people in LinkedIn today, the more professional your LinkedIn profile needs to be. So how do we get started? If you don't have a LinkedIn profile today, you're going to want to go to linkedin.com. I recommend, from my experiences, you use Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge, and Apple Safari. I have had problems using them with some of the features that are built into linkedin.com, and so that's why I don't recommend them. But go to get a Chrome browser, get a Firefox browser, go to linkedin.com, and just follow the steps. You know, log in with your email address, set it all up, and get going. Follow the basic guidance that LinkedIn gives you. Then come back to this course and go deeper and get more deliberate ideas and philosophies and best practices that I can share here. Now, there are lots of people out there who will tell you how to build a LinkedIn profile. And I offer, listen to their ideas and then ask them, why do you share that and how do you test that and prove it works? Most people won't be able to share that with you. My idea is I've tested and I've proven to myself and to many of my clients that they work. Just a couple weeks ago, I had a lady who I coached her on some very basics of her headline and her about section and her experience section. And she messaged me and said, oh my golly, Teddy, I'm getting twice the LinkedIn profile views I was getting before, and I'm showing up in way more searches because I made the adjustments that you gave me. Tested and proven. That's what you're looking for every day. Let's talk about one of possibly the most important thing that you have to be aware of when you're writing your LinkedIn profile, and that is your target audience. You need to focus your content on them. But you need to be clear about who they are. You need to be really clear about who your target audience is. When I first got started in my own business and I started building my LinkedIn profile, I thought my target audience was the people I teach, you and other business developers and salespeople and account execs and inside sales and outside sales. I thought that was my target audience. For the most part, that's not. My target audience is the sales leader who is responsible for making sure the business developer, account exec, salesperson is successful, because that's the person who pays for me. Now, account execs, salespeople, business developers are important, but they're not my target audience. Being clear on who this person is will help you better write the message so that they, again, what you're sharing and what you deliver and the products and services you bring to the table resonate with that person in a very meaningful way. I often break it up this way. In a business space, it might be, what's that person's role? What kind of company are they in? What's the industry that they're in? Maybe all three of these are relevant to defining your target audience. Maybe geography and region comes into play. The more deliberate you are in understanding this, the easier it's going to be for you to be able to clarify for yourself who your target audience is. For me, the person in the role, that role is sales leader, sales manager, VP of sales, director of sales, regional sales manager, national sales manager, et cetera, et cetera. For me, the type of companies is any B2B space. For the most part, any B2B. Manufacturing, corporate insurance, corporate real estate, corporate banking, et cetera, et cetera. All of those are the types of companies that are relevant to me. And industries, again, manufacturing, finance, consulting, all of those industries are relevant to me. Geography, my target audience is U.S. That target region is U.S. I do work globally, but I focus on the U.S. Starting to focus a little bit more on Canada, because I can't focus on everybody. But understanding those dynamics that make up that target audience person will help you be more deliberate about writing your message. In a B2C space, maybe it's people with specific interests, maybe it's people in a particular category of age, sex, other personal demographics, so that you figure out, maybe it's people with a specific lifestyle. And maybe it's a sum of all three of those that helps you define your target audience, again, in a B2C space, business to consumer space. Maybe geography and region. Now, by the way, if you can't get a grasp on this yourself, or if you have access to a marketing person that can help you, or a marketing consultant that can help you, get that help. You do not need to define your target audience in a vacuum. If you have the ability to have this conversation with others in your organization and or with marketing consultants, do that, because the more purposeful you are at being clear about your target audience, the more likely you're going to be successful building your professional LinkedIn profile. Now, here's the next big thing. How are you going to speak to your target audience? What are the words and phrases that are important to them? What are the words and phrases that they use to define what it is that you do? In the early days, I thought from my world, I was trying to come up with a catchphrase, most important viewer, doing hashtag MIV, most important viewer. Nobody cared about that. It didn't resonate with them. For them, for my target audience, it's leads, it's prospects, and maybe target audience. So I got to use the words that resonate with them, not words that I think are cute words that, make my marketing look better. Don't rely on words and phrases that you hope that they are using. Do your research. Ask questions. Ask your target audience what words they use. Ask their influencers what words they use. Go look at your peers and see what words they use in their content, on their websites. Now, I'm not saying use your peers' words, but it's worthwhile to understand what they're using. Maybe they're using phrases that resonate with your target audience better than the phrases that you're using. Use Google Trends to analyze these keywords and phrases. Once you've built a list of 10, 15, or 20, start playing with where they show up in Google Trends, and then you'll know better which ones are more important for your target audience. Give you an example. When I started building my brand, I used the phrase LinkedIn Trainer. I've been using the phrase LinkedIn Trainer for years. I went and did a Google Trends analysis on Google Training and Google Trainer, and training rate factorially higher. So I started changing all of my content to focus on the words LinkedIn Training, and I still use LinkedIn Trainer, but I just pivoted and make LinkedIn Trainer on top, and I saw a significant increase on profile views and showing up in searches. And then once you built this list and you prioritize this list based on what words are showing up in trends, then you'll know what words to use, not only in your professional LinkedIn profile, but on your website and your blog posts and your LinkedIn posts, etc., etc., etc. By the way, one of the things I do is when someone reaches out to me, I ask them how they found me. I ask them, did you find me on LinkedIn, through Google, YouTube, Quora, did you find my blog or whatever? And then if they said they did a search, and I ask them, please, please, please tell me what words you use to find me. Because that can help me, again, be more deliberate about using the words that I'm being found, especially if that lead is someone who's very important to me and aligns with my target audience. Now, let's talk about style of writing your LinkedIn profile, because this is important. First of all, write your LinkedIn profile in your language. And when I'm being philosophical there, I'm not talking about English or Spanish or whatever. I'm saying in the words that you use. Write it and using the language that you would normally use in a conversation. Do not subscribe to someone else's style. Just because someone else is out there using bullet points and maybe using emoticons in their LinkedIn profile, if that doesn't resonate with you and the way you speak and the language that you use when you talk, then don't use that style. Use the words, the tone, and the level of formality that you would normally use in conversations with other humans. Show your personality. And by the way, if you're writing today or you're using words in prospecting today that someone else has told you to use and you don't feel comfortable with that, then I would not build my profile using that style that someone else has told me to use, even though you've been coached in your organization to be that way. Be a real human. That's really important when you're writing your profile. If your target audience appreciates your sense of humor, don't ignore it. Celebrate it. Don't lead with it. Don't make it all about humor. But there's nothing wrong with a little bit of humor when you're talking to someone. Thus, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of humor throughout your profile, again, in the right places. Don't be a fake. Be the real you. Dr. Seuss says, you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Be you, and also be who you are when you're building your professional LinkedIn profile. Now, let me give you some best practices. Before we go into LinkedIn, I'm going to share with you some really important best practices. Here's 10 that I encourage everyone to subscribe to. Number 1, you need a profile picture. And it needs to show you're approachable. And it shouldn't be you with someone's arm around your neck. It shouldn't be you, your wife, and your kids. It should be a photo of you, a headshot, chest up, so that people can see who you are. And not a little teeny picture either. Your minimum of 600 by 600, so people can see who you are. They can see your smile. They can see your eyes. They can see that you're a real human being. When you write your headline, you do not write a headline that is HR sanctioned titles. You write a headline that tells your target audience what you do for them using keywords that resonate with them. Number 3, make sure your contact information is up to date and it works. I know business owners whose contact information references the prior company they worked for. Their phone number is the prior phone number. Their email address is the prior email address. The website is the prior email address. You do not want to be that person. Make sure your contact information is accurate and it works. And then when you're writing your about section, the bullet point number 4, you write your about section and you start telling stories. Maybe you'll look at the primary keywords that resonate with your target audience and you'll write a story about each one. 2 or 3 sentences in each story, separated by a blank space. So I can see that story, want to read that story, and get pulled in to read this story. Tell stories. Use the featured section to showcase content that builds on your brand, that shows your target audience, oh my God, this person is really involved in doing what I need done. And not only that, this person appears to enjoy doing what I need done. People hire people who enjoy doing what they need to have done. Number 6, use the experience section to show growth. It's not a resume. In your prior positions, you go back as far as where relevant, and what you talk about there is not the company and not their products, but the work that you did and how you grew and how you learned. In each one of your prior job experiences, you talk about what did you do in that role for that company and how did you grow. And you can absolutely refer to, in this role, I learned how to do what I do today. You don't need, it's not a resume. And so that when they read your experience section, then it builds to who I am today and what I do. And your current position is all about what you do today, relevant to your target audience, or creates value for your target audience, either directly or indirectly. Again, tell them what you do, what you can do, what you enjoy doing. Number 7, look at your skills section. When you write, when you build out your skills section, it better be skills that are highly relevant to you, to your target audience, the context of what you do today. And by the way, if you're a business professional, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a consultant, a strategist, whatever the words are, I don't want to see Microsoft Office or Microsoft Word in there. That is no longer relevant. That's as relevant as knowing how to use a number 2 pencil. You should already know how to do that. Now, on the other hand, if you are a writer, if you are an editor, if you are a data analyst, then maybe you'll put Word and Excel in there. But for everybody else, it's assumed that you know how to use those number 2 pencils. Number 8, all of the content throughout your entire LinkedIn profile must be relevant and or showing professional growth. So if you have volunteer that's no longer relevant, if you have associations and organizations that you were a part of that no longer relevant, you need to take those off. You never want to send your target audience down a rabbit hole. You want them to look at content that, again, builds on who you are and what you're all about. There's my rabbit hole statement. Do not put anything on there that sends them down a rabbit hole and gets them distracted from discovering who you are and what you're all about. And then number 10, you'll hear me say this a lot, spell check and grammar. You do not want to be that person whose LinkedIn profile says manger. You do not want to be that person whose LinkedIn profile says pubic relations. Make sure you check your spelling. Make sure you check your grammar, because this will distract the target audience. If they're trying to read a statement, they're trying to read this sentence and they're struggling to read it, then you wrote it wrong. It's probably grammatically incorrect. So use tools like Grammarly to make sure you don't make those mistakes. Here's a bonus. You need to adjust it on a regular basis. You need to make sure it's kept up to date. And by the way, you got to remember when you're writing this content, not only are you writing it for the human, you're also writing it for the search bots. So I often say this, the top part of any section on a LinkedIn profile, the top part of your experience section, the top part of your about section needs to speak to the human. Below that can be more rich in keywords because you're speaking to the search engines. So let's talk about the big sections of a LinkedIn profile. Sort of along the lines of what I've already spoke on, but I'm going to break it down a little bit deeper. Again, the top card is important. Your contact information is important. If you are a creator, you absolutely want to use the features section. You want to use the about section and use as much of it as you can, again, telling meaningful stories. The experience section is important. The education is important. License and certificates are important. Volunteering is important if you have that. Skills, up to 50 skill words. Recommendations are important. These are also indexed. The text in a LinkedIn recommendation is indexed, so it helps you rank higher. And recommendations show your target audience that other people believe you can do what you say you can do. Publications. Again, all of these are all indexed. Anytime you have a text box in a section, you can put keyword-rich content and raise your ranking. Courses. Organizations you're a part of, and there are numerous other sections that could be useful to you as you build a professional LinkedIn profile, speaking to your target audience, telling them who you are and what you're all about. All right, so now we're going to go into LinkedIn Live. We're going to look at my LinkedIn profile, and I'm going to share with you section by section what you need to do to create a professional LinkedIn profile. Now, by the way, if you have not already written down who is your target audience, and if you've not written your keywords and phrases that resonate and are important with your target audience, stop this video right now and do that work. Because when you go to build your LinkedIn profile, you need to have that information available so you can do it the right way. All right, here's my LinkedIn profile, and it's really easy to get to. You click on me right here and view profile. Anywhere you see your picture on LinkedIn, you can click on your picture right here, and it'll take you right to your LinkedIn profile. Now let's start from the top. This is your banner image. What I recommend you do for your banner image is put an image that is just a pleasant image. You do not need to have a branded image, but you have to have an image. Without an image, it tells the viewer that you don't care enough to make your LinkedIn profile look good. So a professional profile will always have a banner image. I recommend if you put a banner image there, you want to have a banner image that is at least 4 times wider than it is tall. And it's got to be at least 1600 pixels wide. And if you don't have one you can think of and you got to change the picture, you can choose some of them that LinkedIn have available. A few of them are pretty simplistic. Some of them are a little bit more societal and cultural oriented. I'm okay with these, but they're not highly relevant to me, so I don't use them. But if you're going to upload, again, I recommend it be at least 4 times as wide as it is tall. Now, you could do some really cool customization if you want. If you're going to put a lot of words on here or some message, make sure you leave this area right here clear so you don't cover up your words. And when you put it up there to test it, look at it from your desktop and look at it from mobile so you know what it looks like on both. Because sometimes on mobile it squeezes a little bit and it may overlay it. You can be really cool with some imagery there. Just experiment with it so you know it's going to work. Here's the next thing. I have because I'm using a profile video, and you can only add a profile video from the mobile app. Because I have both the profile video and edit the photo, I have to choose what I want to do. If I want to edit the photo, I strongly recommend everyone have a LinkedIn profile picture. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that in my book at all. A profile picture tells the viewer that you are approachable. Not having a profile picture tells the viewer you are not approachable. And if you're trying to get the right people to look at your profile and consider having a conversation with you, you better let them believe you are approachable. Additionally, 600 by 600 is what I recommend. I recommend if you take the picture yourself, if you use a cell phone, use the back camera, don't use the front camera. No bathroom selfies. No pictures of you with your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend's arm around your shoulder. No pictures of you with your kids or you with celebrities. It's a picture of you. You want to present yourself through that profile picture. If you're going to use the profile video, experiment with that. Do some testing. And again, you can only upload that video through the mobile app. You can record the video of the mobile app as well, or you can use a video tool, save it on your mobile app, and then upload it. Frames allow you to add, the original frame, which is nothing, a hiring frame, or an open to work frame. So you can make those decisions. If you're going to put the hiring frame, then I recommend that you be actively involved in the hiring, not just use hiring to say my company is hiring. Let others who are actively involved in the hiring, let them use that frame. If you're going to use the open to work, then you better not be doing this discreetly, because this is public now. And I'm okay with that as long as you don't rely just on that to let people know you're looking for a job. You should be looking for ways to get into conversations with the right people, and you should also be engaging with the right people. Don't just rely on the banner to make it happen for you. Here's the next big thing. The rest of this is what's called, this is all in the top card or the info box. And here's how you edit all of this. Under the pencil. So a couple things. First of all, it's sometimes hard to see in dark mode. There's an arrow here. If you're using premium LinkedIn, you have the ability to have an open profile. Open profile lets anyone on LinkedIn be able to send you an in-mail for free, because you're paying for LinkedIn, and even if they're not connected to you, they can send you an in-mail for free. I like that. I do get some in-mails that are irrelevant, but I get a few in-mails that are relevant, and I'd rather have the opportunity for the few that are relevant and ignore those that are irrelevant rather than not have that opportunity. Your profile premium badge, turn it on or turn it off. You can show people that you have it, or show people or don't show them that. I recommend show people, especially if you are serious about using LinkedIn. Let them know that you're serious about using LinkedIn by having that there. Your name. First, last, and additional. Don't put extra character. I see people all the time put ABC, XYZ, Bubba this, whatever. Don't put all that in there. Do not put anything in your last name field except your last name. I get it. You want people to know you have an MBA. I get it. You want people to know you're a doctorate. I get you want people to know that you're, CCUA or whatever it is. Do that in other spaces. Do not do that in your last name. The other field is additional name. This might be a maiden name. It might be a previous married name. It might be a nickname. The only reason I would use additional name is if the people I do business with know me with that name. They know me from my maiden name. They know me from my previous married name. They know me from my nickname. If that is not the case, do not jumble up your LinkedIn profile with that extra content. Again, use the first and last name that everyone knows you as. I'm Teddy Lee Burriss Jr. That's my legal name, my name my parents gave me, but it is not the name that the people I do business with know me as. Your pronunciation, you can't change that here. That's a mobile app feature for you to add that. It can be 10 seconds long. I, on my mobile app, put that on there. I say, hi, I'm Teddy Burriss. Try to say it clearly. And then I said, this is what I do. 10 seconds is a lot of time. Don't waste it just for your name pronunciation, even though that is important to do so people pronounce your name correctly. But additionally, use that extra time to tell them what you do in a very succinct way. I can delete it from here, but I can only edit it or add it from my mobile app. Pronouns. Pronouns are important to a lot of people, and I respect that. They may not be important to me, but I'm not the only one on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn isn't just for me. So I respect pronouns, I just don't use them. Now, because I don't use them, I'm also not going to disrespect pronouns by putting in some custom field where I try to overpitch myself. Don't do that. If you're going to use pronouns, use them in the manner in which they are intended. Otherwise, just ignore the field. You don't need to use it. Here's a big conversation. You ready for a big conversation? By the way, anything with an asterisk, you have to have something there. First name, last name, you have to have something. Pronouns, you don't have to. But headline. Let's talk about headline. This is the field directly below your name on your LinkedIn profile. There's 220 characters. And it is the field that you use to tell your ideal client, your target audience, your next great lead or prospect or hiring manager, what you do for them. Now, let's talk about this a little bit because this is important. This needs to be keyword rich. And you don't have to follow my philosophy. I use all 220 characters, and I separate out big keywords: social selling, social prospecting, social branding. Those are big keywords for me. Also, what's big keywords for me as well is, if I go over here to the end, let me get over there, LinkedIn and Sales Navigator training and coaching. Those are big keywords for me. They don't need to be separated out, which is why I wrote this statement. I can stop your sales team from wasting time on LinkedIn with highly focused LinkedIn and Sales Navigator training and coaching. And then I went ahead and said I do this virtually and on premise. So you don't need to have all that. But you better use this field to tell your target audience what you do for them using the words that resonate with them. And again, hopefully you've written that list out already and you've verified it and ranked it by using Google Trends. Now, another thing is, I did some testing, and I used to have my separator here. I used to use a vertical bar called the pipe symbol. Shift the key above the return key. I discovered that when I used the vertical bar, I showed up in less LinkedIn searches. When I switched to the space, my search numbers went up. So I recommend you don't use a vertical bar. You use something else if you need a separator. But write that headline and write it focused on your target audience. Again, using words that resonate with them. This next field is your current position. So if you have multiple current positions and the top one on your list is not your most important, you need to fix that. But if it's not your most important, then I recommend you choose the one that is the most important, and then you make a decision if you want that shown up in your intro or top card, and I recommend you do. If you turn that, leave that on, it shows up right here. If you turn that off, then it doesn't show up on top. But I recommend you have it there. The next field is the industry. This is shifted. LinkedIn made a big change, I don't know, sometime early 2020, and went to another industry code list. So if you haven't adjusted this on your LinkedIn profile, you may want to go look at it and make sure that what is there is relevant to the industry that you work in, relevant to what you do. I used to have professional development there. Professional development went away, so I've had to switch to business consulting and services. It's the closest industry that I can come up with, relevant to what I do. Next field is education. Again, if you have multiple schools there, you're going to want to select the one that is the most relevant to who you are and what you do, and then make a decision to show it in your top card or your intro card. I recommend you do. These add new education and add new position. We'll talk about that a little bit. Here's the next big one. Location. This is where you choose the country/region, you choose your postal code, but then what you need to do here is make sure you don't choose a small city or even a city of any kind. If you have a region or an area, choose that. And if the zip code you put in here doesn't give you a region, and you do work in a region that's near that zip code, I recommend you put the zip code to the bigger city so you can choose the region that is most relevant to what you do. Again, do not use a city by itself. I recommend you do a region. It gives you a better opportunity to show up in more search. We'll talk about contact information in a minute. Another thing you have on your LinkedIn profile, you have this field for website. So you can add a link that you want, a call to action link you want people to go to. Put that right on top of your LinkedIn profile, right here. Your ticket to master LinkedIn. And when you edit that, where was I here? You can put the URL, and then you put the call to action text that you want people to see, so that they decide, wow, that's something I really want to do. And I might need to change that because I don't know that I'm getting enough hits on that page. from my profile. So later on, I might change that and use different words that may resonate with my target audience. But this is the primary part of the top card. I hit save when I'm done. Now let's go look at contact information. In contact information, you have your custom profile URL. We'll talk about that in a minute. You can have 3 websites. You can have your business phone or any phone number you want to put. Your email address. If you use Twitter, you put it there, and your birthday there. We'll talk about why. And then if you're using WeChat, you can put that there. So let's talk about this. Hit the pencil to edit. This is important. If you have not customized your LinkedIn profile URL, then I recommend you click on this. It brings you to your public profile settings. You go over here where it says edit your custom URL and you hit that pencil. And you put something there, and here's what I recommend you put. You put a handle, let's call it a handle, that is relevant to you as a human. Not relevant to you in your role, not relevant to you in your industry, not relevant to you in your company, but instead make it about you as a human. And here's why. Once you customize that, you never want to change it ever again. And the reason being is that is highly SEO ranking. And the more your LinkedIn profile URL shows up on the internet, the more your LinkedIn profile is ranked by Google. And so then when people are looking for the keywords that are relevant to who you are and what you do and relevant to your target audience in a Google search, because your LinkedIn profile URL has been ranked because you use it in lots of different ways, then your profile is more likely to be seen in a Google search. Again, make it about you as a human, and never make it about your role, your industry, or your company. Now, one more thing here. That's my handle, TL Burriss, Burriss. I use that handle on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, Quora, all over the place. I even have a website, tlburriss.com. And by standardizing the handle across all of my social media platforms, when people do a search for TL Burriss, they find all of that stuff. So when you standardize your handle, it is powerful personal branding. While you're here, you only need to look at your edit visibility. Here's some things that are important. First of all, I strongly encourage you to make your profile photo visible to the public. Not just all LinkedIn members, not just your entire first, second, third level network, not just your first level network. Now, I have a lot of people who say, Teddy, I want more privacy in that. And I get that, but I disagree. You want to use LinkedIn as a business tool. If you want to use it as a business tool, you want to be show yourself approachable to everybody who looks at your profile. So put your photo on there and make it visible to the public. Now look, if you want to disagree with me, that's fine. At least make it all LinkedIn members, but not your network or first level. You want these people that you're not connected with to see you and go, that's the person I want to talk with. I've met that person. So I recommend public, but at the very least, all members. Now, the next thing is scroll through this list and look and make sure nothing is unchecked. Let me repeat, make sure nothing is unchecked. Here's why. Everything you put on your LinkedIn profile, you want it totally publicly accessible. If you put content, if you have content on your profile that you don't want people to see, take it off. It shouldn't be on your profile anyway. All right. So once you customize your profile, make sure your picture, your photo is visible to at least all members, not public, and all that's on, just come out of this and come back to your LinkedIn profile. And we're back into contact information. Now, here's my email address. My recommendation when you add email addresses is 2 things. Number 1, have your personal email address, an email address that you're never going to lose. It's you personally. It goes with you everywhere you go. Have that on your LinkedIn profile. Secondly, if you're using LinkedIn for business, have your business email address on your LinkedIn profile. And if you're using LinkedIn for business, then make that business email address primary. If you go in here, you can see that I can decide what my primary email address is. If I want to change it because I no longer work for that company, which would be hard, my wife would get mad at me, then make your personal your primary. Now, additionally, you can leave old email addresses on there. You do not need to take them on and not need to take them off. Additionally, I can log into LinkedIn with this email address. I can log in with this email address, et cetera, et cetera. It makes no difference which email address I use. The passwords and the two-level authentication is tied to each of those email addresses. And when you add a new email address, you're going to have to go to that email account and verify that email address before you can make it primary. Couple more things under contact information. I recommend a business phone number. If you have a business phone number, that's my Google Voice number. I don't have an office, so I use my Google Voice number as my business number. Label it appropriately. If it's your work number or your mobile number, label it appropriately. The only reason I would put address in the address field is if I want people to come visit me. I want the general public to come visit me. If I do not want people to come to my home office, I will not put anything in the address box. Don't put city, state, don't put anything. Again, only put an address if you want people to come visit you. Birthday, I'm an advocate for put your birthday there. It's a great way to open up the door for conversations. For me, I'm always looking for a conversation. I don't need to engage with everybody at the same level who send me a birthday notice. But if my ideal client, my target audience, my most important client sends me a birthday notification, that creates an opportunity for me to respond to them by telephone or email or go visit them. The next area is the websites. Right now, you can only have 3 websites. There is a button to add more, but it does not work as of August 2022. But when you put your websites, put the most important one at the top, label it company, maybe portfolio, maybe blog or personal, but go with the one that's the most important. And then you can have a secondary website address. And again, label it appropriately. And then you can have a tertiary or third, and again, label it relevant to what the purpose is of it. Do not put any website on here that you don't want people to go to. And when you do put it on there, click on it yourself to make sure it works and you didn't mistype your website. Here's the add websites doesn't work. Instant messaging. If you're active on Skype or active on Google Hangouts or something like that, and you really engage with people on that, then you can put instant messaging. If you're going to put Twitter, you better make sure it's an account that you're using and it's active. You do not want to have a Twitter account out there that's irrelevant or that is not active, that sends your target audience down a rabbit hole. You don't want them going down. And when you get done doing this, you hit save. That was contact information. Now let's talk about these other sections that are on your top card. Under open to, you have find a job and hiring. And also, if I didn't have this, providing services would be under open to. But because I have it there, it doesn't need to be displayed there. Now, let's talk about these. Providing services. This is a separate page. It's a whole other page where you can have 500 characters and you can tell your target audience who you are and what you do and how you help them. You can also pick your location and declare that you can work remote or in person, whatever is appropriate. You can have 10 services that you list here, but this is only from the default list that's in LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I don't have LinkedIn training or Sales Navigator training there. I wish I did. But you choose the services options that are available to you and put, again, you get 10, so put 10 there or as close as you can to 10. This is something I haven't taken advantage of. This just popped up in the last couple months. This is where I can put media, I can put an image, I can put a video, I can put a link to other relevant sites, documents, etc., etc. You can have up to 8 pieces of content. Wow, I've got to stop as soon as I get this course done, and I got to put some media. Again, this is another way to showcase and to really show your target audience what you're all about when they look at your showcase page. Under your showcase page, you can also have reviews. You can ask for up to 20. And so, what I recommend you do is be very deliberate about asking for asking for reviews on your showcase page. And you'll see that I have 9 out of 20 left. If I go over here and look at review status, you can see that these folks have not done it yet. Not sure why, so I'm going to remove those, and then that'll give me those credits back, and I can go ask somebody else again later. And so use it. Get all 20. They're listed as credits. I don't know if after you do all 20, you get more, or maybe the first of the year you get more. I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out the first of the year. So these are, again, this is your services page. And by the way, that's accessible to anybody on LinkedIn. So you can put that services page, you can share it anyway, anywhere you want, but the only people who are going to be able to see it are people who are logged into LinkedIn. That's the providing services. Show recruiters you're open to work. Again, I talked about this in the context of the frame. If you're going to do that, be very purposeful. Fill that out to as much as you can. The other one is showing that you're hiring and you want to attract quality candidates. I'm not going to drill into those two, but if you're going to use them, be very purposeful about building it out the best possible way. This next section is analytics. It's just information for you to be aware of. This is a profile views. If you're not a premium member, you're not going to have the premium features here, which I think includes these filters. And I know for a fact it includes all of the people in the last 90 days who've looked at your LinkedIn profile. If you're not paying for LinkedIn, you're only going to see the last 5 people who looked at your profile. I look at this on a daily basis, and I only need to look at, maybe 10 or 15 at most. You can see that, this is 6 minutes ago, 5 hours ago, 5 hours ago. I've got some decent profile views in the last 24 hours. Here it is here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I get a lot of profile views, but I only look at it once a day. And it's important to me to know who they are, because if this person is highly relevant to me and important to me, then I need to figure out how to engage that person. The other analytic that's really important is search appearances. And this tells me, in the last week, I've had 627 search appearances. Every week this changes. This does not change daily. This changes every week. Unlike profile views changes daily. And this also tells me what were people looking for when they found me. And where do they work? Top companies that your searchers worked. Now, that's interesting. Top companies means, is the U.S. Navy a top company, or are there a lot of people in the U.S. Navy looking at me? Same thing with the Bud Group, et cetera, et cetera. And then the top job titles. 9% of the people are salespeople, 6 are business strategists, 6 are executive directors, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's worth understanding if you're showing up for the wrong words, you have the wrong words in your profile. If you're being found by the wrong people, you're not using the right people's words. So pay attention to that. It's definitely worth understanding. The middle number is profile, is post analytics. This is telling me in the last 7 days, my content has shown up in somebody's LinkedIn profile, someone's LinkedIn newsfeed, 4,591 days. It does not mean they stopped and looked at it. Does not mean they read it. Does not mean they watched the video. It only means it went through their newsfeed. Resources, we have 6 of them. I'll talk a little bit about, this talks about, and talk a little bit about followers in this next section here. So let's look at that. You can see all 6 resources. So start from the bottom and go up. All items. If you're viewing a post on LinkedIn or an article or something and you want to look at it later, there's a button under the 3 dots. You can say save it, and all of those will be under my items. So jobs, courses, articles that you saved to look at later. Actually, it's articles and posts. Activity. This is what takes you to your activity page on LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn profile. And it lets you see all your activities, which includes likes and comments. Lets you see, your articles that you've written, and maybe they're a part of a newsletter, maybe they're not a part of a newsletter, but these are all the articles that I've written. Here's the posts. These are the, the straight text I posted. These are the, maybe they're videos, maybe they're images, maybe they're links to other content. These are all the posts. And then documents. These are all the, the Word documents, the PowerPoints, the PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, et cetera, that I've saved for people to be able to look at as documents. I wish there was a link right here for live. Wouldn't it be cool if you're a content creator and you're doing LinkedIn Live, you have a button that takes me to all my lives? That would be pretty cool. Let's go back. Under resources, salary insights and personal demographics. My personal opinion, I'm not going to fill those out. I own my own business. I don't feel like sharing my business salary is important or something that I'm comfortable sharing with others. I do encourage people to share that if they work for another company, because that lets them build that information so that we/they can all benefit from that data. Personal demographics, again, I'm not interested in sharing my personal demographic information with LinkedIn. That does not get shared with my network. It only gets shared with LinkedIn. I get it. LinkedIn needs that information for their marketing purposes and maybe for their demographic information and their annual reporting. I'm just not comfortable putting it there. My network is the same button as this right here. Takes me to see, my open invites, the ones I've received, the ones I've sent, and I can also go from there and I can see my connections and my who I'm following, et cetera, et cetera. Now here's the big one: creator mode. Creator mode is where you decide what topics are you talking about. You also then, because you're using creator mode, it does a couple things. Number one, it then gives you access to LinkedIn Live, gives you access to LinkedIn audio events, and it gives you access to newsletters. Now, if you're not using creator mode, supposedly, and I haven't proven this, but you do not have access to that. So you lose live audio and newsletter. Additionally, if you use creator mode, then what it also does on the top is it puts the I'm talking about words here. And then it also shows your followers. It shows your total follower number. That's not my connections. Those are my followers. My number of connections is significantly lower than that. And also, if you're using the creator mode and thus using followers, and also, it's not here for me to show you, but typically for most people you're not connected with, it'll say connect. If you're using creator mode and you've had followers turned on, it's going to say follow. Connect will be under more, where for most people you'll see follow, but those who are creator and the follow button is there, under more you'll see connect. So go look at that, you'll see what I mean. Just look at different profiles. If they have this right here, it's going to say follow. If they don't have this right here, it's going to say connect for most people. But this is really important. I really encourage you to think about this creator mode idea. If you are not actively creating content, if you are not actively producing, articles, videos, memes, stories, et cetera, and one more big piece of that, if your LinkedIn network is not big enough for you yet, and you really want to grow your LinkedIn network more, then I encourage you with those two parameters, do not turn on creator mode yet. Wait, do it later. Specifically, if you're not an active creator. By the way, you'll also see that if I scroll down past that, here's the Add Profile section button. So all of the core sections, all of the recommended sections, and all the additional sections are underneath this button, Add Profile section. So anything that I'm about ready to talk with you about, you don't have, it's going to be up under here, and you just got to go get it, click on it, and then you can add it. Next big area, featured section. This is rich content. Actually, that's what LinkedIn used to call it, rich media or rich content, that showcases your value, showcases your expertise, your skills in the context of what you do for your target audience. You don't want to put any featured content that, again, would send your target audience down a rabbit hole of irrelevant information. I want people to read this because this is a really good article I wrote and got lots of engagement, and I want people to pay attention to it. I want people to know that I'm here to help. I do these free, quick reviews. And the reason I do them for free is because I get permission to publish a YouTube video. So I get to be able to create content, and I also get to be able to help people. This is also a moneymaker for me. I want people to know that I have this monthly program. Now I have other content in here. This is my free. I don't have that up front. You don't see that by default. You got to go look for that, and I'm okay with that. And this is also, Jillian wrote an article about me, so I want people to see that. And so there's more content as well. But remember, the only content you want to add, whether it's a LinkedIn post where you grab the URL of that post, whether it's your newsletter or somebody else's newsletter, whether it's an article you wrote, you got to use links. All of these are links. These are LinkedIn links. This is a third-party link. Might be to your website, might be your podcast, your YouTube channel, etc., etc. This is rich media. This allows you to upload an image, a video. It allows you to upload a Word document, a spreadsheet, whatever, PDF, a PowerPoint. But whenever you put here, you have to remember, it has to be information that is highly relevant to who you are and what you do, showing your target audience what you do. And if I hit this pencil here, you'll notice that, if I hit edit, I have description. So use this description box to tell your target audience what this is all about. This is indexed. So you want to use your keywords in here because you want those keywords to help you bring yourself as well as this content up higher ranking on your profile. Okay? Let's go back. That's featured section of rich media. Activity, this is just what you see from your activity page. We looked at that earlier. Because I'm using creator mode, it shows it in a different format than most people, and it only shows my post. I really like that. It doesn't show my likes or my comments. All right, here's the next big section, your about section. You get 2,600 characters in this field. However, no one will ever see it if you don't first get their attention in these first 3 or 4 lines. So in these first 3 or 4 lines, stop vetting yourself. Stop telling people how many years you've been doing this. Stop telling people, all of these self-gratifying statements. Instead, tell your target audience what you do and how you create value for them. Use the keywords that resonate with them. Tell them what you do and how you serve them and how you help them. Because if you get their attention here, then they'll click on see more and they have an opportunity to read the rest of your 2,600 characters. Now, here's the next big thing. What I recommend that most people do is look at the keywords you're using in your headline. Look at the keywords that are in your list that you put together. And take each one of those vital, critical, highly ranked keywords or phrases and write about it. I could have written all about social selling in here. I could have written all about social prospecting. I could have written all about social branding. Now, I didn't. Mine's a little bit different, but it's getting me value. I was able to figure out a way to wordsmith this differently. But if you're not a big writer, if you're not a big wordsmith, then just take each of these phrases here and write, left it, and write about each one of those keywords in here. And every time you write about a keyword or phrase, have a blank line, and then write about another one in a blank line. Make it easy to read. Do not have a big, huge hunk of text. Nobody wants to look at that. But write as much as you can. You have up to 2,600 characters. You don't need to use that much. Now, when you get to the end, and let's say you've written all you feel comfortable writing, you can list this my specialty thing, which you don't even need to give it that title. And if you're going to list keyword or key phrases of your specialties, don't list them in word, comma, word, comma, word, comma, word. Each one needs to be in a line by itself. So it's easy to read, easy to discover, instead of in a big hunk of text. But again, write this, keyword rich, focus on your target audience, telling them what you do, what you can do, and listen to this, what you enjoy doing. People want to hire people who enjoy doing what they need done. So if they see that you enjoy doing this, it makes them think of you a little bit better than the other person. So do it that way. And one more really, really critical, important philosophy. Spell check and grammar check. I actually encourage you to take all this and write it in Word or Google Docs. And then you can use grammar check and spell check in those tools. And then when you feel really, really good about it, and that's important, you got to feel real good about it, then you can copy and paste it and you can drop it in your About section. And if you need to break it up, put lines and spaces in there, then you can do that later. Write your About section, focus on your target audience. Let's talk about the next big important section of your LinkedIn profile, and that's your experience section. In your experience section, let's start at the bottom and work our ways up, okay? You can see I started in 1997 and went up. Now, I've been in business for way longer than 1997, but I stopped in my history at some point where it became irrelevant. Nobody needs to know I worked in a chemical plant. No one needs to know that I worked for a computer company. No one needs to know I worked on a trash truck. And actually, no one needs to know that I drove a trash truck in the morning and delivered caskets in the afternoon for the same company. None of that is relevant to who I am and what I do today. So I started right here where my career started getting involved in training and public speaking and that kind of work. Now, in my previous position, if the company exists on LinkedIn, the company is the Bud Group, then choose the company and you start typing in the space Bud Group, and then you select from the list. It's important you remember that. You just don't type in the Bud Group and hit enter. And so that the logo shows up if the company exists on LinkedIn. Then, only thing that I put in this, what's called the job description field, is a very short statement. To the most part, and I made it about what I did back then that's relevant to what I do today. Now, very little of what I did back then was relevant. But, I got involved in branding, I got involved in career coaching, I got involved working with professionals and passionate people. And I thought comfortable saying that. But if I was doing something that's totally irrelevant, I didn't talk about it. It was a facility management company, janitorial, landscape, and security. None of that is relevant. So this next position, the company doesn't exist on LinkedIn anymore. It actually has a company page, but it doesn't exist. So that's why you have the ghost image there. But again, this was very irrelevant to what I do. It was all technology work. But I wrote a little bit about the rewards. I wrote a little bit about, I learned a lot about people, processes, and systems. I started experimenting with LinkedIn. I began seriously growing my LinkedIn use. And then, the people I met along the way were important to me. I want to show that I'm a human. I also want to show how did I develop in this role. Now, this is a role I have today. It's for an organization called SCORE. And so I put very little about what I do. This is a current position. I've been doing this since October. And it's sort of kind of voluntary work, but I'm pretty active in there. And that's why I put it under my experience section, where really, if it was totally volunteer, I probably should have put it down here. But anyway, I put it here because it's more business relevant and it's a current position. Now, here is the company I work for today, Burriss Consulting, and we do lots of things. I do LinkedIn and Sales Navigator training, so I put an entry for that. I do Google Workspace and Gmail training. I put an entry for that. I do webinar production for other companies. I put an entry in for that, very simplistically. And then I also go down to the bottom, you should see that I'm a career coach and I'm a leadership coach. Now, all of these are activities that are relevant to the company I work for, the work that my business does. But look what I did. I started at the top with the most important activities. So if you have multiple roles or if you work for multiple companies, be very purposeful about putting the company and the role that is the most important for your use of LinkedIn on top. And you can move them around here. There's a button here for reordering where you can grab them and move the ones around. Again, you can only grab the companies and the roles that you are presently working at. And then you just grab the stack and move it around. Now, let's talk about entering in a new position. I'm going to hit the edit button and show you from the edit button. All right, so first of all, you have this option. Do you want to notify your network of key profile changes, such as a new job or a work anniversary? You can turn it on or turn it off. Now, by the way, I got it off, so then I can get alerts about my work anniversary. Where is it? Not going to get those alerts because I have it off. And I probably want to have it on, but I'm not going to turn it on at this moment. Now, your title. Yes, it's called the title field, but this is a highly indexed field. Your headline and your current position title are two of the most important fields that LinkedIn searches and that are indexed. So you want to put keywords in here that speak clearly to your target audience, telling them what you do. Do not put in accounts payable A through L. Do not put in here business developer. Nobody's looking for those words. They're looking for words that resonate with them and that are meaningful to them. So be very purposeful about using this 100 characters, telling your target audience what you do in this role. Employment type. There's the options are, seasonal, apprentice, internship, contract, freelance, self-employed, part-time, and then full-time. I'm not a fan of self-employed. If you work for yourself, you're working full-time for yourself. If you're freelance, maybe you want to use that if you want people to know that you're an ad hoc available resource. Maybe contract, maybe internship, maybe apprenticeship. The one that I really struggle with is self-employed. But if you're not sure which one to use, don't put anything, because it doesn't have an asterisk, so you don't have to have anything there. Now here's the big one. When you put your company in, start typing in the company name and select from the list. So if I get rid of this and I type in Burriss, you gotta learn how to spell it right, Teddy. And select from the list. Don't type it in and hit enter. Type it in, stop, select from the list. Okay? Then location, doesn't have an asterisk, so you don't have to have anything in there if you don't want to. If you're currently working at this company, leave that checked, and then all you have to do is you have to put in the year you started. You don't need to put in a month, interestingly enough. And if that's not checked, you have to put a closing year, but again, you don't have to have a month. Now, you could go ahead while you're in a new position, you can end all these other ones. Don't do that. Do that one at a time. Don't end them all. Additionally, you could change your industry and service. Maybe, but be careful doing that. Additionally, here's the other big one. You get 2,000 characters in this box. Let me see if I can get it bigger. And so in this box right here, you want to use the same philosophy I talked about in regards to your about section. Tell your target audience what you do, how you create value, how you solve problems. What do you do relevant to them? Use keywords throughout all this content. Don't copy and paste your about section in here. Write it differently. Maybe you'll rearrange the order of the keywords you talk about. Maybe you'll talk more about something you didn't talk about. But you definitely want to use the same philosophy I gave you in regards to your about section. Tell your target audience, tell your most important viewer what you do. And yes, you can put some keywords. Look at that, I misspelled listening. You can put some primary keywords at the bottom in a list, one in a row instead of all in one row. Make it easy to read with spaces. And Teddy, check your grammar, check your spelling, so that you don't look like a fool, because look at that, in a broad range of industries. And then you can change your headline here. Don't. Leave that alone and change it when you change your headline. You don't need to change it here. Yes, you could if you want to. When we're talking about skills, you can align skills with this position, but you do that in the skills section. Also, you can put rich media here. I've added one, a LinkedIn profile checklist. Not a whole lot of people go to this. I've never really found a whole lot of value here, but you can if you want to, and it'll show up in here. And once you get done adding it, you hit save. And by the way, if you want to get rid of it, you hit delete. There's my rich media on the bottom. And again, each one of these roles, you have the ability, each one of these entries, use the pencil to edit it. Once you've edited all you want to edit in your experience section, you come out. And then you move on to the next section. Education, I recommend higher education only. Trade schools are great if you've got a trade school kind of a role. Community college or higher. universities, all of that. You can put anything that's relevant. If you've got an undergrad and a master's and a doctorate, you can put all of that in there. By the way, if your doctorate is in dust ball collecting and your business is all about something totally different, then you may not have to list that doctorate. It's up to you, but I encourage you to think about that. What education am I going to put in here that's irrelevant to what I do? And is it going to send them down a rabbit hole you don't want to send them down? Or is it going to make them think that, oh my God, this guy's a doctor of psychology and he's a mechanic. Does he really want to do this or really want to do that? So think about your presentation in this brochure so you don't mislead or send people thinking something you don't want them to think. The next section is license and certificates. Again, I recommend you show content that is relevant to who you are and what you do. I have a certificate in water purification. I have a certificate in radiation measurement. I have a certificate in Cisco Call Manager and Call Manager Express. None of that is relevant to what I do today. So all of it went off my LinkedIn profile when I transitioned into new work. And so really be very purposeful about adding a certificate or a license. You have the name of the certificate, the issuing organization. Does it expire? Yes or no? The issuing date, I think you have to have month and year, because I use month and year on all of mine. If it expires, you have to have the month and year of expiration. If you have a credentialing ID, you can put that on there. And furthermore, if you have a license or a certificate that's online, maybe it's on a certificate site or a licensing site, or maybe you saved it in your Google Docs, then you can grab the public URL and put that in there so people can come see it. And then once you're done adding it, you just hit save. And interesting, this is a LinkedIn Learning class, so I tag LinkedIn Learning, and it used to have a logo and it doesn't anymore. But you can see Evernote and DDI, all these have a logo. Why doesn't LinkedIn Learning have one? So this is your certificates and license. And when you're done working that, just come out. Let's go a little further. Let's talk about volunteering. Here's my suggestion. Stay between the lines. And here's what I mean by that. We all volunteer in lots of different things. Some of the stuff we volunteer in could be distracting from who we are and what we are all about. Example. For me, I personally say this. If you volunteer for your church or you volunteer for your political organization, I wouldn't put that on your LinkedIn profile. Unless you're in politics or you're in religion. But I don't put that on here because, I don't want to send people down a rabbit hole looking at something that could be distracting from what I want them to see. Now, I serve veterans. I'm used to be a part of an ATD chapter where I'm professional development and learning. I was a board member for a coaching group. That's highly relevant to who I am and what I do today. I'm a career coach, so I ran that organization for many years. You can see I turned it off. I ran it for 10 years and 1 month. I'm the co-founder of another organization that's still in practice, and I'm now the board member emeritus. I worked for another chapter of career coaching. All of this stuff is relevant. I was a part of the March of Dimes. I kind of thought that showed I was a part of my community. And I hope that doesn't send people down a rabbit hole I don't want them to go down. And then I was also a member of Toastmasters for many years. All of that is in some way or another relevant to who I am and what I do, so I show it. Now, if you don't have any volunteer, don't worry about it. But I will offer to you that people want to work with others who care about their community. Volunteering is a good way to show people you care about your community. But only put on there what you want them to see. Don't put anything on your volunteer section that, again, would send them down a rabbit hole you don't want them going down. Skills is the next big section. And by the way, it's also changed significantly in the last year. I'm on the fence as to whether or not I like the whole idea about it or not. But anyway, you can also take a skill quiz if you want to, and I think that shows up under the skill. Those skill quizzes are only going to be relevant to the courses that are on LinkedIn Learning, first of all. You can have 50 skills. You can see I have 49. If you hit the plus, then you can go up here and you can type in a skill word that you want. I recommend you choose skill words that exist in the system. Be hesitant about adding new skill words, because the more skill words we add, the more we dilute this. And so choose the ones as much as you can that exist in the system. And so add all the ones I want to add in here, and then I hit the X and close that down. Let's look at the pencil. This is the big change. So in the big change, so first of all, what I recommend you do is look at the three dots here and you have reorder. When you go to reorder, it shows all of your skills, and then you can make a decision what skill words you want on top of the list. The ones that I recommend you put on the top of the list are the skill words that are the most important to your target audience. The ones that are the least important, put those down at the bottom. You want these top three to show up, because by default, when someone looks at your skill section on desktop or mobile, they only see those first three. Let's talk about a little bit more about what's under this pencil. So this skill right here, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Look what I have here. A lot of stuff. I can choose which work I do, what experience, what education, what licenses and volunteering and publications are relevant to that skill. Where's my YouTube channel? Publications, YouTube channel, YouTube playlist. And then there's courses and there's projects. I can select that. And then I can hide or show endorsements for this skill, which is pretty interesting. And then once I do that, hit save. Now you can see that I associated this skill with this role and with this publication. And then I can also see all 5 details I've associated with this role. I got 17 endorsements I associated with this publication, and this project. And so now if I go look at that role, we go back up top and I look at this role here, you can see that I have, where is it? Oh, here it is. Here's the role. There's the skill. And so you can assign your skills to different roles and they'll stack up under that experience section. It's a lot of data to manage, a lot of data to move around. You may want to do it for, again, the most important skills. If I'm going to assign skills to my roles, to my projects, to my publications, I'm going to focus on those top 3, and I'm not going to send my viewer down a rabbit hole looking at stuff that's not highly important to who I am and what I do. But add your 50 skills, organize them the way you want to organize them, and then decide if you want to assign specific skills to specific roles and publications, etc. By the way, any skill that is no longer relevant to who you are and what you do, remove it. You don't need to have it on there. This is a section of recommendations, a whole other conversation, but I want to just introduce you to them. You want to ask for recommendations on a regular basis. I would say maybe 3 or 4 times a year, 4 or 5 times a year. Ask for recommendations, but only ask for recommendations in regards to who you are and what you do today. And when you ask for a recommendation, when you write out the request, say to them, I did this project for you, state it. I believe it created this value for you, state the value. And then ask this question. If you agree with that, would you write me that recommendation? And when you ask, you want to use the keywords, so all your keywords show up in the content they write so that it shows up on the screen. It helps index your profile a little higher. But, and by the way, when you ask for a recommendation, don't do a tit for tat and give a recommendation. You can give recommendations as well. Now, I did a lot of work with Adrian. He learned from me and I learned from him, which is why I did that. And so, but be very purposeful. Do not give a recommendation just because you get a recommendation. Be able to support what you write, because somebody may call you one day and say, tell me about working with Adrian. And I got to be able to support that beyond just the words I wrote here. Here's the next big section. It's called publications, and that's going to be under additional publications right here. These are publications that are online. When you add a publication, you get to give it a title, which you have to give it. You gotta get you can give the publication a publisher name. It doesn't need to be a company name, but it needs to be something. And then the publication date's a good thing to have. And then the author, if you have more, if you are the author and you have another author, you can add the other author in there with you. The URL is important, and this doesn't have an asterisk on that, but I strongly encourage you, if you're going to have a publication and you'll list it, try to have the publication URL, whether you save it somewhere in your Google Drive or whatever, or it goes back to someone else's website. Publications are great if they can read it. And then the description, you get 2,000 characters. I'm not going to tell you to write 2,000 characters about a publication, but I am going to recommend that you use keywords and you tell the viewer about this publication and what it was all about, using keywords and phrases that resonate with your target audience. So publications are great if you have them. YouTube videos, articles on the internet, podcast interviews, a website, blog post someone wrote about you, etc., etc. And I'm a big writer, so I have 18 publications. Again, this is powerful if you have it. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Courses. Again, courses that are relevant to who you are and what you do. That, I took this course from Coursera. There's not a whole lot you can write here. I did associate that with the company I work for here. I can edit that, and you can see I put it associated with my primary company. I can associate with any company. I really would recommend that you only sign your courses, as long as it's appropriate and relevant, sign them with your current role. Again, unless it was very relevant to a previous role. But courses are great as well. It's a great way to show people that you're growing if you are in fact doing it. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. Projects, another area where you can talk about something you did. You can give the project a name. You say you're currently working on it. If you aren't currently working on it, what's the start? When did you end it? When was the start and end date? I think you have to do year. I don't know. You have to do month. Let's go take a look real quick. Projects, see more. Oh, wow, I don't have the start or end. Oh, it's not a mandatory. So you could put the start and stop end dates if you want to. Creator, if you have other people who are a part of the project, you can list those other people who helped you with that. You've got to be connected. I think you have to be connected to them. But let's see if I do Bill Gates. Yeah, you got it. You only can put a creator who you're connected to. It's not a mandatory, but you can do that. You get associated with a particular company. If the project has something online for people to see, put the URL. And again, you get 2,000 characters, keyword rich, telling the viewer about this project and how it's relevant to who you are and what you do. How does it show the viewer your ability to serve them and help them? Great. There's lots of rich content. You use what you have the ability to use. Again, if you don't have it, don't worry about it. Languages. So, I recommend you put the languages that are important to you. English is the only language I have. This is absolutely a joke. And I put that there to see if anybody looks at my languages and messages me and says, Teddy, do you really know Pig Latin? I did know Pig Latin. I don't speak it anymore. But if you are bilingual or trilingual, you absolutely want to put that on there. In today's environment, people want to do work with people who can be global. So show that. Organizations, when you add an organization, this is you got to give it a name. You could put the position held. You can associate it with the company if you want to. You can say you're still ongoing with it. If you are, it takes away the end date. You've got you should put the start date, maybe start month. You don't have to. And then again, 2,000 characters to write about that. If this organization is highly relevant to who you are and what you do today, then you need to talk about it. Write about it, especially if it's, if you can clearly use keywords that are relevant to that organization to do that. None of these are highly relevant to what I do today, but they really were important to me, and it does show that I was a founding member and a part of building something. A tribe is important to me. The philosophy of dreaming is important to me. That's why I have it on there. It shows a little bit more about me as a human, but yet still stays between the lines. So that's organizations. Again, any organization that's relevant or shows that you serve your community is worth doing. If the organization is no longer relevant, get rid of it. That is the bulk of all the sections of a LinkedIn profile. of a professional LinkedIn profile. What I didn't show you is I don't have patents, I don't have honors and awards, I didn't use test scores, I didn't add causes. I could have, but I didn't. Under recommended, I use all of those features, and under core, I use all those features. These are all these sections. So again, you want to use sections that are relevant, that you can put content in that supports and amplifies your brand in the context of who you are and what you do for your target audience. So here's a couple other tactics that I want to share with you that can help you be more effective at building your professional LinkedIn profile. First of all, write all the content outside of LinkedIn. Write it all in a Word doc or a Google Doc. And again, edit, spell check it, do everything you want to do. Start with your headline. Start with knowing your keywords, knowing your target audience, knowing the key phrases, and then write your headline. Emoticons are not the end of the world. I've kind of gotten to like them a little bit, but be careful. Don't overdo it. I'm not a big fan of emoticons in your headline. There's some controversy that emoticons, which are extended character set characters, can impact LinkedIn and Google search in a negative way. That's one of the reasons why I resist putting them in my headline. Write the about section and your experience section text with space. Make it easy to read, comfortable to read, so that the viewer is going to want to read it. Remember, those first 3 or 4 lines, you need to really get their attention. Once you've written all this in your Google Doc or your Word doc, make sure you edit it, proofread it, edit it, proofread it again, spell check it 17 ways from Sunday. Then you can copy and paste it into your LinkedIn profile. And you don't need to do it all in one setting. I mean, this can be a lot of work. So start with your headline. Feel good with that? Put it out there. Go to your about section. Feel good with that? Put it out there. Go to your current experience section. Feel real good about that? Put it out there. And then slowly work on the other sections. It's not a race. It is a journey. And then remember to always adjust your text as your business changes, as your career changes, as your role changes, et cetera, et cetera. And also there's some philosophy, I'm still testing this, that when you change your LinkedIn profile, it forces the bots to re-index your profile. I'm still on the fence with that, but I believe that has an important value in a Google search. I haven't proved the value in a LinkedIn search yet, but just the same, every now and then go look at what you wrote and ask yourself, did I write what I want to write, or should I write a little bit different? And if you feel you should write a little bit different, then by golly, do it. There's one more thing I want to show you here, and that is a really cool tool that you can use to look at your keyword richness of your LinkedIn profile. So let's drop out of here for a minute and go back to LinkedIn. Go back to my profile. Now, I use the tool. This is only, I'm not recommending jasondavies.com/wordcloud. It works. I like it, but I'm not saying you have to use it. But a word cloud is the philosophy here. So go back to your LinkedIn profile. And what I recommend you do, it's just gotten harder to do with the new way that the LinkedIn is presenting your profile. So sometimes it might be easier just to simply grab it section by section. I can grab all of the about section, highlight and hit Control-C, go in here and get rid of that, drop it in there, hit enter and move it down, go back. Go to my experience section, and let's see if I can show more there. Can I show more? And I can show more. Get all of the current stuff. Let me see if I can do all. You want to open it all up so you can read it. See, I can read it. I can read it. I can read it. I can read all of that. So let's take, I can read this. I can read all of that. Good. So then I can highlight, start at the bottom. Always start at the bottom of the section and go up and highlight, go to the top of the experience section. And then copy that, Control-C, go back to the word cloud, paste that in there, get to the bottom. Some of this stuff's going to get in the way, but I'm not too worried about it. Then go to the next section, come out of experience. All I'm trying to do is highlight all of this. Now, can I highlight all? Look, I can open up all of that. I can go to see all. And then I want to be able to look at all of them. So any of the recommendations that are closed, I want to make sure they're all viewable. This is really cool on this section here. And so then I can start, let's just assume I went to the very bottom, start here and highlight all the way up. Go all the way up to the top of the recommendation section. Come on, get up there. All right, and then that's all I need. Copy that. Go back to the word cloud. Paste that. Go to the bottom again. Push it back down. Now I want to go to, you can go to any section you want to get this content from. It used to be really easy to do that. You just start at the bottom of your profile and go up. But the way this is written now, it's harder to do. Show all 18 publications so I can see all of that. So I go to the bottom of this. Come on, get me down there. And then go back up top and highlight all of this stuff here. And I got all that. Copy that. And then go in here. And all I'm doing is I'm having to do it the hard way, is copy all of the content that's in your LinkedIn profile content. Drop it in a word cloud tool like jasondavies.com/wordcloud and then hit go. And look what it does. You want to look at what words are the biggest words. Yeah, I got a bunch of stupid numbers in there. I got Teddy in there too many times. Ignore all the clutter and then look and see what words are the biggest. Now, LinkedIn is obviously the biggest. Training is pretty big. You know, business, webinar, coaching, pretty big words. You want to see those words. I don't know why first. Oh, those are big words that are used in the system. You want to make sure that your key words show up the biggest in here. Ignore the ones that are irrelevant like need and get and ink in 2016. But if your keywords do not show up big in here, then it's not given, your LinkedIn profile needs more work. I'm struggling here, a little disappointed I don't see Sales Navigator as much. Maybe I don't use that as much as I thought I did. So I might want to go back and update that. Sales Navigator is not the biggest part of my business, but a word cloud is one way for you to look at your LinkedIn profile and measure, are you using your most important keywords and phrases enough? It's a lot of work. I'll repeat, it's not a race, it's a journey. But you need to start working on it if you want your LinkedIn profile to work for you, to help you get discovered by others, for others to see your profile and believe that you know what you do. You've got to build it out in this manner. So this is the end of this course. This is my free course. It's going to go on YouTube. I have 2 other courses. I've got the first one out there already, my introduction of using LinkedIn as a business tool. This course is titled Creating a Professional LinkedIn Profile. I'm going to create 2 more courses, building a network on LinkedIn and building a brand through engagement on LinkedIn. And actually there's a 3rd one in the works, using Sales Navigator as a prospecting tool. Hope this is useful. Feel free to reach out to me on Quora. Comment on the YouTube video and ask me any questions. I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you for letting me share this with you.